All right, major cliffhanger in the last episode. We were getting this error, and I realized just really quickly I forgot one of the most important things. And so we had already had in the use static files and HTTPS redirection. I deleted the use default files. We added in use routing, which is going to allow us to use this different pattern we just talked about, where we determine based on what the user type, we point them where we want to. There's no direct correlation to specific folders or anything like that. We just take their request and we say, this is what they typed. Let's go to this view based on that. And so we're using routing. In order to use routing, we want to use this thing called authorization, and then we can map a controller route. But we got an error when we tried to run, and that's because I forgot one of the most important things, which was we need to say, actually between these two lines. So we got this, in the beginning, we've got this var builder, which is creating to, setting up the stuff that it needs to get the program to run. But between this declaration of the builder and when we actually run the build command, we need to do something called setup services. So we're going to set up services, and the service that we need to be able to do what we're doing here is to put in MVC. Remember, we started this app as just a blank app. It doesn't know it's an MVC app yet. And so I need to put that in there. So I say builder.services dot add controllers with views. So this is what behind the scenes is setting up all this stuff I talked about, how coding by convention, and it's going to recognize this folder and it's going to know you're meaning this with the views, whatever. That's all built into this service that we set up to be able to do MVC, and that will allow us then to use this format that we're going to use. So, okay, now that we've got that done, we'll cross our fingers and we'll try this again. And I'll get ready to cry if this doesn't work. Okay, and we even got our little message up there. This worked. And so what's happening, just to recap, and you'll see I'll be doing a lot of recapping to explain what's going on so we can understand this all. I've set up and said, now I still need to use static files, by the way, because of the CSS and JS and those other things that are happening in there. And I want the HTTPS redirection in there in case they've typed in HTTP instead of HTTPS. But what I've set up here is a pattern. So we're going to use something called routing, and we're going to determine based on what they typed in or what's being passed. And so sometimes we go from one view to the other, and we want to pass what page we're on in our list of products. And so we'll add on to the address. It will say something like this. It'll say, here's the thing they typed in, and it'll have a question mark, and it'll say ID equals 2. And so this pattern is setting up and saying, go and look what they typed in terms of this name. And then, I guess it'd be this name, the views. So go look and see what controller we're talking about, and then what action, and then any information that's being passed along with it. And then we'll determine from this route where we go from there. And so it says, but if they don't type in anything, set the default to home and set the action to index. So it says, okay, they just ran the website. They didn't type in a specific address. And so I'm going to go to my home controller. Notice it doesn't say home controller because, again, that'd be wasting your time. We already know it's a controller. So .NET's saying, leave that off. Just tell us which controller. And even though I know it's named home controller, I'll just take off that controller name. I know you're talking about home. So we're going to go to the home controller, and then in the home controller, we're going as a default to look at the action index. Now, let's just change this up a little bit, and I actually am going to strip out from the index CSHTML page. I'm going to pull all this stuff regarding the fan mail into the other page. And so I'm going to take this and cut it out of the index page, and I'm going to drop it instead in the fan mail page. And so there we have our heading, there we have our form. And so I save this, and then just to prove this point, in the program CS, I'm going to instead call the action fan mail. Now when I run this, it's not going to actually do anything in the beginning. But if I were to come in here and say, well, it won't do anything anyways, we got to fix it. There's no action for fan mail. And so I need to come in my controller and create a second action. So I'm going to say public. I'll do the same returning of the iAction result. And we will return different things, but this is our default. Fan mail is what I'm going to call this one because that corresponds to the view. And then in there, I'm just going to say return the view. Now when I do this and save it, now I've set up an action called fan mail. So it's going to relate to that view. And if I call this action, and I didn't put anything in here, it's going to default to return to the view with the same name as the action. And now that in my program CS, I said we're going to go to fan mail first. When I run this, it should take me to the fan mail page. Okay? Is this starting to click a little bit and make sense? And by the way, you're not going to be an expert your first round on this. We're going to learn it over time, layer after layer, talking about it again and again, and it will, jive and make sense. But that's the idea. So our default action is going to be index, and then let's run it again just to prove this point. So it's going to default now to index. If I come in and say, well, actually, I wanted to go to fan mail, then it actually didn't take me to fan mail. Oh, I know why. I was like, wait, what's wrong? I have to say home. See, I love it when I make mistakes like that. And then fan mail. And then it'll pull up. Why did it pull up now? Because my regular expression type thing, my pattern said, where's my app? My pattern said, first look for the controller. So think about it this way. Let's do that, actually. Maybe this makes more sense. Now that I'm into it. We're saying, well, what's going to come first is the name of the controller, and then a slash, and then the action, and then a slash, and then any IDs or anything, any information after that. And the question mark indicates they may not have that. It may be blank. And so when I run this, it won't now come up to index as a default, or it shouldn't. I've been surprised before. Yeah, why does it say slash action? Did I type that accidentally? My bad. Let's run that again. My heart always slightly drops when there's an error because I'm like, what happened? Oh, see, there's another one. Just dropped again. An error occurred. Oh, the slash was between those two, though. There we go. How did it get inside the braces? Okay, it can't find anything because there was no default there on the controller or the action. But if I now go into that page and I type in, let's go to home/index, then it will go pull up that page. Now, interesting, it's not pulling up the image, by the way. Let's do home fan mail. Then it will take me to that page. But it's getting it from the pattern. It's saying the first thing you're going to see is a controller, and then you'll see an action. And so all we're doing with that equal sign is saying, well, let's default to home, and let's default to index if they haven't typed in anything else. And that way when we run it, then it should pull up that website at the index. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little more sense in terms of the routing and how that works. But this is defining the controller we're going to, the first part of the pattern, and then this is controlling the action we're going to go to within that controller. More to come in the next video. Spencer, out.